and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have guest R. Scott Lemriel. After over 30 years of extensive experimental research and direct contacts with benevolent beings from off-world, Mr. Scott Lemriel put forth the Ceres Agenda. His first published Hidden Truth revealing book, it was written after the 3-book manuscripts that comprise the Parallel Time trilogy. Hidden Truth revealing adventure were completed. The final 4th edition of the Ceres Agenda, published in August 2105. Now that's interesting because that's about 100 years from now. So we're going to talk about this. Now, this contains special techniques added to the back for the experimental benefit of all readers. It is designed to make available special protected ways for them to begin to safely have their own direct, uniquely transforming and uplifting experiences regarding the hidden truth revealed in the chapters. Scott also directed over 50 TV shows with the theme Exploring Your Spiritual Life that aired in the Seattle, Washington State and the Vancouver, Canada areas every Friday night at 7 or 7:30 p.m. for 2 years. Now, Scott, it's great to have you on the show with us. How the heck are you?
Doing great, Rex.
Wonderful. You know, we've been talking a little bit back and forth before the show and also via emails, and just really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you. Getting to know just a little bit about you before we started here. I'm just really excited to hear what you have to say. And if you would please let our audience know a little bit about yourself and why you decided to get into the path of writing about cosmic experiences and intergalactic travels, etc.
It'll be my pleasure. Yeah, I just got back from a very special conference in Finland. It's the second time that I've been invited to Scandinavian countries to conduct a presentation for Europe and for the public there. I was flown over there, of course, in October of 2014 to a Norway conference. And there is a free YouTube video, 2 hours, that if you just look up SERES, the Ceres Agenda on YouTube, it comes right up. And people can watch that for free and see how I did my presentation there. I'm in the middle of editing a number of videos now from the Finland conference, which took place this month, just a week ago. And those are extraordinary. That event, which gets into a little bit of my background too, that event was unique because the first 2 days of it were a private meeting amongst what the sponsor calls shamans. Shamans, a Siberian term meaning those who know, not just somebody who heals with their hands or tribal shamans or anything like that. And so there were scientists there, world-renowned top scientists that work beyond the normal areas of science. And myself as a presenter, a radio show host, Ted Marr, was there. Michiko Hayashi of the Emoto Peace Project was there, which deals with the programmable nature of water, which the scientists have discovered, a 4th phase of water, and that it has its own charge and it's programmable in 5-dimensional levels. Very interesting stuff. So I went there basically to provide a certain protection for that conference site, the people coming to it, and when they left. So we had no interference whatsoever from any black ops teams, hidden military industrial complex, hidden government, negative extraterrestrials, or anything like this. It's something that people that go to these need to experience for themselves, and they do. So that we'll put that aside. Those videos will be available soon. Now, to get into a little bit of background about me, where I started with this was when I was maybe 3.5 or 4 years old, walking up to the little brick house my parents had outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, in Bountiful area. And it was near dusk, and I was just a little toddler. And as I was walking towards the steps, my parents were engaged in a normal argument between, married couple. Not violent or anything, but to me, in the consciousness I was in, for some reason, I could see their energy fields around their body, and there was a barrier between them, sending out red darts and sparks of energy, which would be considered a mild argument between people. And what that did was I suddenly found myself projected out of my physical body, and I could see that I was comprised of a spherical form of energy. It had structure, and I knew who I was. I was an adult, mature male being, not from Earth. And I looked up and saw a sphere of energy. It had a transparent golden light around it. And inside this sphere were geometric formulas, mathematical equations, all kinds of things that I understood about intergalactic travel, how people live in other worlds. And I looked into it and could see the star patterns. So I recognized that where I was, and I said to myself, Earth, what am I doing on Earth? This all went through my consciousness. And so when I went back into that little body, this experience stayed with me. And it began to propel me in a direction of discovery and recovery, recall and remembering that has taken place throughout my life and into my later years and into my adult years and ongoing experiences with these things. Later, when I was living in Washington State in a little town called Cherry Crest up on a forested mountaintop near Bellevue, when it was mostly forest back then, I had an experience of coming home on a school bus one day, and I was the last one dropped off. This bus would go 1.5 miles or 2 miles up a long hill up to the top of this forested area and drop me off a little wooden bus shed. And then I'd watch it travel another 1.5 miles down the other side and disappear down below into Bellevue. And as I took a step, my head actually got pulled upward in a benevolent way. This was not an abduction experience. There was no fear and no negativity involved here. And I looked up and I could see, maybe they were at 25 or 30,000 feet, I suppose. They came down to maybe 15,000 feet. There were two groups of disc-shaped craft, 15 in each group, in two triangular formations. And I immediately found myself in a telepathic conversation with a male human aboard the lead craft. I just knew it. I knew that he was benevolent. I knew that he was human. I knew that he was not from Earth, and that there was a reason for this. So there was a telepathic stream of information that went on for, 15 or 20 seconds. And then the two groups broke apart. And you remember how the ships danced around in Close Encounters?
Oh, yeah.
Spielberg's. Okay, these ships didn't look like that, but they did that kind of acrobatic maneuvering all over the sky and then regrouped. And then the two triangular groups just kind of tipped towards me and shot up into space. Very intriguing. Here I am, 11 years old. So I walked another 3/4 of a mile up the hill to the house where we lived up in this housing development area. They had little narrow roads between all the homes there. I never spoke about this to my family, my brother, my sisters, my parents, ever. About a week later, this is funny, I decided to try to find out why it was that my father drank beer and what it was all about. Had no idea. So I stayed up about 3 a.m, snuck in the fridge, grabbed a can of this beer, climbed out the window, walked across the dew-laden grass up to this narrow roadway, and it was a beautiful night. There were just beautiful star-filled skies, no moon, and wind. It was balmy, it was summer, it was beautiful. And I popped a can of this beer, but I never drank it. The next moment, I found myself on my back, spread eagle, with this beer in my left hand, sitting there, unspilled. And I was looking at a disc-shaped craft, pulsating from blue to white light, hovering just above 4 or 5 telephone pole lengths above the telephone pole, maybe 15 feet from me. And this same impression of a human male benevolent being aboard that ship began. And a stream of information went on for about 15 minutes. I knew what it was about. I couldn't comprehend it all in that young form. And then that stopped, and the craft just began to pulse from blue to white light, faster and faster, till it became a blinding white light, and it shot straight up into space. So I got up, dumped the beer out, put it in the garbage, snuck back into the room, went to sleep, told no one. No one ever knew. So this is what compelled me to go forward through my teenage years, having some out-of-body experiences and some other things that gave me more information during a night when the rest of the world's asleep. And then one more experience I want to share, just the tip of the iceberg. When I was 21, I was traveling with a friend and his wife and their newborn baby around the western United States, kind of like a free-for-all spiritual mission, kind of a meditation thing. And we just wanted to explore and drive through Sedona and different places, and we went through Utah and all that kind of thing. We were driving late at night on this journey at about 3 a.m. in the morning on the Salt Flats headed towards Salt Lake City. And my friends liked to listen to country music on the radio. So they had it on a country music radio station, and we're happily listening to it. I'm in the back seat, and they're in the front with babies in the mother's lap. And suddenly the radio station started blurring through the dial like someone was turning the dial, until it landed on a frequency where we could hear the commander of a local Air Force base ordering a couple of Black Hawk helicopter pilots to fly over the desert to try to investigate something they picked up on radar. And we heard this. And the next moment, I heard this voice, and this time he introduced himself, and he said, "I want to show you something. My name is Manka." So that's where I got the name of this particular pilot. And the next thing we knew, he asked us to pull over the side of the road, park, and just look out the window and wait. So we did. And I was telling my friends what was happening in this telepathic conversation. They experienced what happened with the radio, so they were very tuned into this. Next thing I knew, 2 Black Hawk helicopters flew over the top of our car. No lights, almost noiseless, out over the deserts, searchlights trying to find something. So this voice said, "Now I want you all to look out the windshield. I want you to see this." We said, "Okay." We looked out the windshield. An instant later, there was a blinding flash of cobalt blue light, and a sphere, looked spherical, but I know it was disc-shaped. The light around it made it look spherical, but it was cobalt blue, and it lit up the desert. And then that vehicle shot straight into the ground as if it was going to crash. And the helicopters were ordered to go over there, but we could still hear this commander yelling at them. And they went over there and couldn't find anything because there wasn't a crash. And then that experience ended. And after we recouped our energies, we just drove away. So these were the things that started me in a journey of recovery. And what I mean by recovery is remembering, recall. It took me many years to discover that all the people on earth have been implanted in a way, in an energetic way, that has made them forget who they were, where they came from before this lifetime, and all they once knew. And this is interesting because people do not know this has taken place. Fortunately, and the reason I do what I do now is because this is all reversible. Any kind of misuse of extraterrestrial technology is reversible. So what is in part taking place now is the process to undo all of that worldwide. So we're not going to have a destructive Armageddon future like people think. What's coming now, people will going to find is completely, entirely unexpected, but really good. So throughout my life, then I had direct contact experiences, money out of body experiences. It's just easier to get out of the body at night when the world's asleep and learn with these people and discover much about the true nature of galactic history and the true nature of the hidden history of Earth and our solar system. Because, man, have people been hoodwinked. The implant that I'm talking about, technology, are not the little chips put under the skin. Those were developed by the military-industrial complex to try to reverse engineering what was another kind of implant technology that they were being affected by. Those implants are like holographic images of energy on a waveform that have terrorizing experiences of death and torture and maim and all the things you can think of, all artificial, that are put into the electromagnetic field around the body, like the aura, that affect the nervous system when they're turned on. But the clever part about it is that people don't see or hear it. They just feel it. So when a person tries to recover their highest faculty of direct knowing perception, which all human beings have in other worlds, then the terror kicks in and they're driven away from it. And that takes place for a while in their life till they get courageous enough and strong enough to get some control over this stuff that was done to them. Then they seek and find answers, and eventually they're going to come into connection with ways to have that all undone. So that's the primary basis for my work today, Rex.
Let's talk about these people that you've been making contact with, the series. Are those the ones?
It's actually pronounced Seyrays, as if it was spelled SEY-REHS, or Seyrays.
Seyrays, okay. So instead of Sea Ray, like the boat, we'll call them Seyrays. Yeah, I like that.
It's not series like the World Series, it's Seyrays.
Gotcha, okay.
That's clear in the book, too. People get that.
Absolutely. Now, you told me before the show that you had actually had contact even before the age of 11, correct? So your first experience, how old were you?
About three and a half.
Okay. And was that with these same Seyrays people, or was that with a different? That
was with the Seyrays.
Okay.
The other experiences were with the Galactic Alliance members, and those are benevolent spacefaring world races. More than 450 million highly evolved spacefaring races in just 1/4 of our Milky Way galaxy. That's how duped people on Earth have been. They should know all about these people. So we'll get into why they don't know and how it's been prevented from them knowing and what's being done about that. When I say 450 million, I mean, in English, the actual term for that organization, which is massive, is, if you rendered it in English, the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. It's not a federation that came from Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. That's okay. They don't mind what you call them, but that's much larger than that. There are also some races out there, much smaller in number, that are spacefaring totalitarian races. And this goes back, oh God, I get the last galactic war that happened in our galaxy happened over 500,000 years ago. It was very violent. Worlds were destroyed, not just the surface, blown apart. And the race that started that war, they were bipedal, they're not human, were defeated. And the benevolent people that defeated them didn't kill them or wipe them out and go to their planet and kill everybody. They just signed a treaty to end the violence so they could rebuild entire systems. And that's been going on for a very long time. So you might say there's been a kind of a Cold War out there for 500,000 years. And if you know anything about tyrants, they will find ways to break a treaty and acquire more property and resources or slaves, always just short of going to galactic war again. And they work through subservient races to do that, to do their dirty work so they can stay in the background. This is the way tyrant races actually work. They don't come to planets and blow up cities and wipe everybody out like Independence Day. This is not how they function. They don't even need many members to come to Earth. They contact the hidden elite, the royal family bloodlines, the most powerful and rich people. They get in control of them through an implant technology. Then they get them to control elected people. Then the elected people control the people. That way, they can get this, Rex. Then they can continue under treaty to ship off-world many valuable resources in a classified space program. And they've been doing that for more than 60 years. This is not good. So the way to bring that kind of classified system and the diabolical nature of it, because it's based on deception, to an end, is to do it in a benevolent way. No one's going to be killed. Bad guys aren't going to be put up against a wall and shot because, quite frankly, the people that are running this world today do not know what they're doing. And they really can't be blamed for it in a way because something was done to them they didn't see coming. And we can get into that.
Can I jump in real quick?
You can jump in anytime you want.
Because you're hitting on some really good points, and I just want to interject here because when you're talking about the royal family lines and these super elites that do have the majority control as far as the corporate control, the defense contractors, the pharmaceutical industries, they've got the monies in these giant Smithsonians, and so they fund the people out there that are looking for things, like archaeologists and such, and so they have the majority of the control. Now, if they've been influenced by these off-world entities with these astral implants or something to control their minds like you explain it.
Subconscious, yeah.
I mean, wow. So that could definitely be a very difficult thing to overcome. And I've also talked to people before like Gerald Clark, which is very knowledgeable with the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki bloodlines, the genealogy of the gods and such. And he's able to go back about 400,000 years. So when you say that there was a galactic war 500,000 years ago, I'm thinking of all these amazing anomalies scattered throughout the moon and Iapetus, Mimas, Mars, etc., that could possibly that just don't look like they're natural. They clearly look like some type of artificial thing. So is that the aftermath of this war?
Yes, largely. Yeah. 6 million years ago, this is even before this war, there's a planet called Maldek that was blown apart from the core outward, literally blown up. It was floated with people. It's now an asteroid belt that circles between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. And that everything is connected to everything else. When something like that is allowed to happen by benevolent beings who do not intervene with negative elements, and things like that happen, I can tell you that it bites them in the ass for many hundreds of thousands of years. It affects negatively many.
How did that blow up?
Well, it was a single device. And that's one of the concerns about Earth, because a certain tyrant culture will bring with them a single device. They'll have it underground. There's one in the Amazon jungle in a base underground. I'm not worried about it, and I don't want you to be, or listeners, because the benevolent beings that are not only aware of where this is, but that'll never be allowed to be set off. So don't worry about that. The intention of any alien tyrant race, if they're kicked off a world by force, is to blow the planet apart. They're sore losers. So obviously, the biggest concern has been to find a way to neutralize those elements in a benevolent way in order to begin to bring this transformation about on this planet. And you're quite right. It would be impossible, literally, for 7 billion unconscious people who think they have free will but really don't, to change the direction their planet's going. And the hidden government people can't change it because they're more heavily implanted than any of us. So it's going to take a massive intervention from benevolent races from off-world to turn this about. And here's the thing. I know in my own direct experience with them, they know full well, in a very mature spiritual way and technologically, how to transform a planet. This is old science to them. They did it to their own worlds millions of years ago. They know what they're doing. And if they have the motivation to do it, they can come here, neutralize these implants in hidden government and in the people, and begin a transformation the likes of which no one's seen in galactic history. That's underway as we speak. So when I say that we will not be interfered with satellite connections, radio, black ops, hidden government, reptilians, whatever, I mean it. We're not going to have those kinds of problems because there's a protection that goes with this territory. I'll give you an example. When I was in Finland for several months, we prepared a certain field of energy around the conference site, which was in the hotel on a private lake about a half an hour outside of Helsinki. Beautiful. There's a field of energy that's placed over that. It's transparent golden dome energy, and it simply protects the environment in the area from any kind of frequency intrusion. More than that, people coming to the conference, including the public attendees and the private invited speakers, are protected going there and returning home. There are 3 ships. They're Galactic Alliance scout ships. They're about 30 feet wide, filled with 7 men and women, each one. They happen to be human. There's a bipedal race or a humanoid type race that works with them too. And they will hover above these sites at about 5,000 feet for the entire time the conference is going on. They are shifted out of phase, which means the electromagnetic field around the craft is just changed. The molecular time rate has changed a little bit. So even though they're there, beings with the eyes and ears you have, you can't see them, and they cannot be detected on radar. They can make themselves visible if they wish, and they've done that. But they're there just to work with people who come there to begin this process of implant removal, which takes the true free will of the individual involved. They have to be aware of it first, then they go through a special vibratory word, you know what that is, that goes through the pineal gland and connects with them. And then if you ask to get the help, they can begin to work with a person out of body at night when they're asleep, get some of the more superficial implants removed that have been bothering people most in this lifetime, and get them ready for the more direct contact where the primary implant is removed. Primary implant is one that is put in most people long before they were brought to this planet, usually as slaves. So they know what they're doing with this. When I was in Finland after the conference ended, in a hotel room, a number of the presenters got together, and I was invited in there, and we sat down, and they asked me if I could help them with implant removal. I've never been asked this. I never went to Finland to be involved in this process. That was not my intent, because I'm on Earth with everybody else. But because they said it, I was able to see those energetic implants. And then I turned it over to the people on board the ships to remove them, and they did. They all experienced it. So they're different people now. I don't know where that's going to go from this point forward, but I do know that this is underway.
You know, it's interesting you bring up these implants because I hadn't heard about these astral type implants before until I spoke with Alexandra Metters. Have you talked to her before?
No, I never have.
Because she was bringing up the same thing where she said, I think approximately 13 or 14 implants are in most people, and they're astral type implants, similar, I guess the same thing that you're talking of. And she doesn't get rid of these implants, but she knows somebody that does. And then I went through, after I uploaded the podcast, reading through the comments section, and some people would say, yeah, I've heard of these before, and you don't want to get rid of them. And then I heard other people say, yeah, you definitely want to get rid of them if you can. So, I mean, if they're going to have a control of fear and terror like you talked about, why in the world would you not want to get rid of them?
You want to get rid of them, yeah, of course. Because they're here's the thing. They create an artificial field of energy, what we call a subconscious mind. First of all, I want to let you and your listeners know, because when I say this information, I know from experience, your listeners are never going to forget it. Even if they don't believe in it, it will follow them, because this process is one way only, and it begins to bring about a benevolent effect for people. Now, this is something that is orchestrated even not only from off-world, but from higher realities, other dimensions, where this came from, why this is underway now in galactic history. People have asked for so long, why don't they come and land? Why don't the extraterrestrials make themselves known here? There's a very good reason for why the benevolent ones have not directly landed and just changed this place, and that has to do with free will. Not the free will people think they have on Earth, because that's been taken from them. But the true free will has at its access a very high faculty of being, developed by human beings billions of years ago out in the galaxies. Human beings are one of the oldest species alive. They did not originate on this planet. They never evolved on this planet, ever. They were brought here from other world systems where they did evolve. And how do I put this? I guess dealing with implants, this goes back off-world to where during a war, people were captured as slaves. They lived 1,000 years. On normal human planets, they live at least that long. None of the junk DNA, we call it here, was turned off in them. So they use 100% of their brain instead of 6 to 10% like people on Earth have been made to do. And they are telepathic and have photographic memories. Children on those worlds, by the time they're 10, have the equivalent of 10 PhDs of a person on Earth by the time they're 10. And this is normal for them, normal. They're telepathic. They remember their other lives and other existences. Their families and their benevolent governments reinforce this from birth. So they grow up being able to get out of their bodies. They enjoy bodies, but they're not trapped in them. When a being's captured and implanted through the misuse of extraterrestrial technology, certain genomes are turned off on the DNA, just like a switch, if you know the right frequencies. And the longevity thing is turned down to 80, 100 years, depending upon the karma, the individual health, and genetics of the person. Basically, it's kept that way to keep humans who are actually live longer than, say, a reptilian, live about 800 years, and are more aware spiritually and more benevolent. If you shut them down so they can't access this higher direct faculty I'm speaking of, which is direct knowing perception, the ability to look into the universe through the pineal gland and how it functions, even from the physical form, and see and know things out there by direct perception. This is a normal higher human faculty developed a long time ago. So human beings on Earth do not need to develop into the future to have these capabilities. They need to have what was taken from them or suppressed in the subconscious returned to them first. That's how this really works. So that means that people on Earth, none of them were ever originally native to this planet. Think about this. Hispanic, African American, Japanese, Asian people, African, South American, Incan, Mayan, Egyptian, whatever they might be. These were all human race species that were indicative of the entire population of the world systems, including their beliefs in the supreme being. And they were all brought here at one time or another to mine, because tyrants do not do their own dirty work. And when they're done with them, if they weren't eaten or killed, they're just left here to procreate. And so genetically, life after life, the civilization on this planet has been procreating beings with shut down genomes. This is not normal. There's nothing normal about it. And it just means that the memory for those people of where they came from before they were put here, and not by consent, has been taken from them. Many people, as you know, around the world are beginning to break through and wake up to things about who they are and what they once knew, despite the implants. There's a reason for that. At the core of every being, what people on Earth call soul, what beings on other worlds call Atma, like the atom of the Supreme, it has innately within it the ability to command any form of negativity, any form of negative being, or any form of negative technology. And it always has. However, if you can implant a person to make them forget that, or not believe that, or have doubt or fear, they can be manipulated, controlled. Fear and doubt, speculation and theory are not natural characteristics of human beings. Human beings have to be twisted significantly to believe in doubt and fear in these things. It's not normal. And what people don't know is there are hundreds of billions, trillions of beings out there just in our Milky Way galaxy. They do not have this problem. That's how kept in the dark people on Earth have been. And the beauty of what I'm sharing is that this process is now underway to reverse all that. And as I say, we're going to need massive help from benevolent systems and people and worlds, human and otherwise, that have the motivation now to come here and begin this process in a non-destructive way. This means when people come to a point vibrationally where they finally see the trap that is revenge and anger and hate, when they can drop that despite what was done to them, their conscious self begins to surface through all this morass, and these higher faculties, knowing direct perception, remembering and recall much that was taken from them without their consent or permission or awareness, returns. It's a natural process, and this is also scheduled to be done to the hidden tyrant leaders, the cabals on this planet, because they're under the control of an extraterrestrial race that got more situated in bed under Eisenhower against his better judgment. And we can talk about that too.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I've heard a lot of stuff about Eisenhower signing secret treaties, but that's all internet. I don't have real good information or data points to that.
Okay, let me share it with you this way, because this is how I present to the public. I don't just tell people nice stories. It wouldn't do them any good for me to tell them about me and experiences I've had. How does that help anybody? It's neat stories, and oh, great, you had extraterrestrial contacts. Well, great, what about me? When I do presentations, I also share with them this hue, this vibratory word, which is not native to this planet, and what it does, and the protection that comes with it. And I get them all doing it with me because, believe it or not, once that starts, it's irreversible. And there is no negative power in creation that can prevent the eventual recall and awakening of that person. So that's a very important difference about things. After World War II, Eisenhower, 5-star general, first time ever, commander-in-chief of, the whole Allied armies, comes back from the war that's over. Truman, as you know, was not an elected president. He assumed the presidency as vice president when Roosevelt passed away. He was a great admirer, almost worshiper of the hidden elite on this planet. Military-industrial complex thing got coined by Eisenhower later, but imperial bloodlines, wealthy people. So they kind of got into play through him what is called the National Security Act. And the CIA, which both were established 3 weeks after the Roswell, New Mexico crash, what was recovered there, oddly enough. And they did this because it became apparent, especially with the ramping up of the Cold War with the former Soviet Union, they needed to classify all knowledge they had of extraterrestrials, and they had plenty. Number one, you just came out of a war that ruined the planet, killed, hundreds of millions of people, and they needed people to be baby boomers and feel safe to have children and rebuild a destroyed world. So in their good intent at the time, they classified all information about extraterrestrials because there were beings coming here, good and bad, that could kick our ass in a heartbeat technologically if they wanted to, and we wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. They had a nuclear weapon, as you know, after World War II. That technology was not developed by our scientists. I don't care what anybody tells you on the internet. That was given to the Nazi scientists through the little gray guys who are under the control of a reptilian race. And it was done illegally, breaking an off-world treaty regarding Earth. So their scientists had a bit of an edge. And to the beings that were manipulating them, it didn't matter if Hitler lost. And here's why. At the end of the war, these SS-dedicated worshippers of Hitler, including Werner von Braun, were SS officers, were divided between the Soviet Union and the United States and brought to these countries and pardoned, put in positions like Werner von Braun was of Nassau. But what came with them was this connection to these little extraterrestrial guys. So what the countries were after was the technology, obviously. And so they created a classified, separate, secret space program, that ran parallel to NASA. And that's been going on ever since. Isn't it odd that under Kennedy and the Apollo program that people would go to the moon, Russia, United States, land their rovers, and then unilaterally just tell the people we're never going back? That couldn't make sense to any sane person.
Well, it's insane. I mean, it really is. Why would you spend so much time, money, effort going out there and then say that unless there's something behind it?
Exactly. And that has to do with the fact that the moon does not turn on its axis. So,
doesn't it have like giant maskins on the back of it or something?
Well, there are bases back there, but you can't see them because they're always facing away from the Earth, aren't they? Clever. You want to put a classified space program up there so people can't see it from radio telescopes or optical telescopes from Earth? Put it on the back side. They call it the dark side, but it isn't dark. It's only dark occasionally, just like the front side is. As it turns around the planet, it gets exposed to the sun as well. So, obviously there were bases on the backside of the moon that were extraterrestrial in nature, some abandoned. So this got this process started of why they never went back, because extraterrestrials got involved in that classified space program in bases underground on this planet and on the moon. And they have a base on Mars. There's a reason why nobody goes back to the Cydonia area. It's classified. So they land a rover on the other side inside a giant crater so you can't see over the lip of it.
Yeah, let's put the rover on the other side where there's nothing. Totally makes sense.
Drive around, look at rocks, yeah. But don't go over the top of that crater and actually look at anything. No, look in the crater, yeah.
I'm telling you, man, I saw that 1976 photograph from the Viking satellite that was sent out there, and I just said, wow, this is incredible. And then they sent those other satellites and tried to debunk it and did some weird filtering and stuff that said it's just all a natural anomaly. But when you look at the geometrical patterns and where those pyramids are located in conjunction with that face and the pi sequence and all these other sacred geometrical patterns, it really makes you wonder what is out there. I don't think that rain and wind would cause those kind of anomalies.
First of all, I want to make a claim. I want to make a statement, and that is this. I do not get nor reveal to others any information about hidden truth that I get from the internet or from other authors or from anybody else on this planet, number one. What I share comes from my direct experience, contact, and revelations that were given to me and shown me as I woke up and had the ability to recall this, as well as help from beings from other worlds. So what I'm sharing with you guys now, I always ask people to not take my word on faith or at face value, but go into what I share with them about techniques and things that will help them not only provided with a certain protection on this backward earth while they're doing it, but provide them with insight in the dream state at night and during the day that will eventually get them to remember all that was taken from them. And that goes into lifetimes way before this planet, out into the galaxy. So it is a big confront, and it takes some courage. But I do know this, sleeping underneath the implants in the electromagnetic field, what we call the subconscious, are people's awareness, clear understanding of all of this. I don't place myself above other people because I'm not. And neither do the beings I know from other worlds. They know there are many beings on this earth who were once very evolved, highly aware, that for one reason or another were captured and brought here to mine. Samaria was a mining colony of a reptilian race. Anunnaki were not human. The symbols and things carved into the stones show clearly reptilian overlords, and they made sacrifices. Yucatan, Mayan, Egypt, these were all imperial bloodline races established by, in small areas of the planet, totalitarian extraterrestrial races under treaty. There were also many good colonies on this planet. Earth under treaty, this, for one reason or another, this Earth, after this war, was classified as a neutral, hands-off, kind of like a Switzerland planet. No one race under treaty has been allowed to dominate this world, good or bad. But they have been able to mess with it. They've been able to have scientific experimental stations here, hidden from sight. They were not supposed to make direct contact with people here. The other disadvantage this world has is that, as you know, the poles of this planet flip overnight 180 degrees. And if you don't know this, every 100,000 years, there have been 6 ice ages in 600,000 years. These events are catastrophic and virtually happen in 24 hours. It's not like other planets because the surface then is completely destroyed, all technology gone. This is an imbalance of this planet that occurred after this war and when Maldek was exploded. It set up a series of events. So this is an unusual planet, meaning that human civilizations that were left here could develop new cultures over 100,000 years, which is a long time, like the Lemurian culture. And then they're destroyed. If you can't get off planet in a ship or through technology or spiritually, you're killed. Probably 2,000 people survived that worldwide, these events. And then they're reduced to savagery, basically. So it has to be recolonized under treaty. Human beings and other beings brought here. It has to have animal and plant life reinstalled here. Human beings not only did not evolve on this planet, but most of them mammalian and plant and insect life and other things were brought here as well. From other worlds where they did evolve, which is why Earth has such an entirely out of balance, disproportional amount of every kind of species you can imagine. Whales and dolphins did not evolve here. Reptilians like the dinosaurs many million, 50, 60 million years ago were also an experiment that was brought here before the humans were able to live here. When they were extinct, then humans have been coming here in one form or another for over 50 million years. Where is that history in the consciousness of mankind on this planet? It's their history, and they have a right to know it, whether they know it or not. So what's important about what happened, getting back to Eisenhower and how this control came about, as you know, throughout history, there have been tyrant races here. They've been policed. There have been wars on this planet, even nuclear on the surface, long ago. And I can tell you that nuclear weapons out there in the galaxy are forbidden. They are illegal. They do not make intentionally imbalanced isotopes to develop for nuclear weapons because they're just destructive. There's no use, practical use for them. And they have a completely different way of power source for their ships and their technology. It's not based on radioactive materials at all. You're never going to see a future like Star Trek with warp drives run on nuclear-powered radioactive cores. That's nuts. That's just crazy. So
what do they run on?
Well, they run on, people call it zero-point energy, but it's really on a plasma form of energy that exists even in the void of space. And if you can develop craft that can channel this energy through the vehicle to power it electromagnetically from one point to another, even interdimensionally between parallel dimensions, then you don't even actually use any energy. You don't burn fuel. Nothing's polluted. This is the kind of thing that normal people out there work. They don't create something in their atmosphere that will poison their water or their food. They don't raise.
But they're going to make money.
Money is the tool of extraterrestrial tyrants. It wasn't created on this planet either. It was brought here. They use it to condition people to a false understanding. A piece of paper with ink on it, as you and I know, has no value. But people believe it so entrenched that it has value, they'll exchange things all day long with this money, which has no backing and real value at all. That is what tyrants do when they come to worlds to control people to get resources. They don't care about people, they just care about the resources, especially resources relative to space technology, obviously. So in Eisenhower's time, Eisenhower was a good man. I want to make that clear. I know this for a fact. He was met with two groups after Truman passed the torch. This Eisenhower was exposed to the truth about extraterrestrials. And he was passed the torch. Actually, Eisenhower is the one who helped establish the military-industrial complex. He coined the phrase military-industrial complex. Later regretted it the rest of his life. And what happened to him was unique because under treaty, he first met with a benevolent group of human beings, landed out on a tarmac at an Air Force base. And it shook the hell out of him. I mean, the guy is coming out of World War II. He meets humans from another planet with technology that's so advanced from ours that we wouldn't stand a chance in a fight. And even though they were uplifting, him and his generals were scared. They didn't know if they could trust them, if they were telling the truth or anything else. They just came out of fighting Hitler and Japan and, that kind of thing. So you can understand his position and his plight. And they offered to transform this planet more than 60 years ago. An end of disease, kill off all the bad microbial life on the planet like they did on theirs. There's good bacteria. And the radioactive elements that are in the water from testing above ground, they could have done that easily in a day, worldwide, neutralize, transform the molecules that make up radioactive isotopes and bomb casings into useful products. Piece of cake for them, by the way. And they would have done this. One of the requirements they had for Eisenhower was he would have to work with the Soviet Union and other people to get them all agree to get this help. This is the free will issue again. Even though they knew people weren't really operating under true free will. This is under treaty, especially at the time. And so Eisenhower said, look, you guys have to get rid of all your nuclear weapons and bomb-making radioactive technology. It's only destructive. It's outlawed outside. If you want us to work with it, you're going to have to get rid of it. They're just being influenced by a tyrant group to build that stuff. We're under treaty. We're trying to help you. Eisenhower turned them down reluctantly. And this ambassador from that group told them they would return to a time when Earth is more ready. Didn't force their will on anybody. And they left. What people don't know is he met with a second group under treaty out on a tarmac. And these were 9 to 12 foot tall reptilian guys, bipedal. Very haughty, very arrogant titles. And they were, if you didn't think that would scare him, think again, because that would have scared the heck out of anybody. And he said to Eisenhower, we don't care if you give up your nuclear weapons. Keep them. We want to do some genetic sampling of your population. For that, we'll give you some of our extraterrestrial technology. You'll become the preeminent power on this planet. Eisenhower was a good man. He turned him down flat on the spot. Of course, I'm not going to agree to have you do anything with our people. This guy was very clever. Two things happened. One, he used blackmail, and he said to him, if you don't sign a treaty with us to get this extraterrestrial technology you're looking for, we'll go to the Soviet Union, to the premier, and we'll give it to them, and they'll become the preeminent power on this planet. Eisenhower still would not agree with him, but he carried a little device on his belt, an electronic device, that sends an implanting, terrorizing, subconscious program into the electromagnetic field, which the person doesn't have any loss of intellect. They still have their sense of humor. Everything's normal, but their decision-making on a planetary scale is no longer under their control. So he signed this treaty. What he didn't know, against his better judgment, was they were already in the Soviet Union doing the very same technique there at the same moment. So this is where we got our technology after World War II so quickly. And it was not from the good guys. Now, the good guys have been making some roads into changing all this, because prior to fairly recently, about 5 years ago, they did not have the collective will to come and intervene and save a planet. However, they went through a consciousness change themselves because of the Say rays that we'll talk about. What happened in a galactic council meeting near the center of this galaxy was the first time anything like this has happened in galactic history. And it changed things in a way that brought about the motivation for this collective group of benevolent races to actually bring about a transformation for this planet for the first time in a way that's never been done in galactic history. So this is going to be a grand experiment indeed.
So that whole thing that happened with Eisenhower created a system classified of bases underground in the United States. And they're connected 2 miles down by not really a maglev system, but it's like a neon tube that lights up, and a double-ended bullet-shaped car rides within them. And they don't touch the walls of the container. They're magnetically suspended, and they go at such a rate of speed, they can get from here to New York in under an hour, underground. This is all extraterrestrial technology that built these things. Here, Soviet Union, different places around the world. And although an elite believes they're going to be handed the reins of this planet by the tyrants they're working with, when these tyrants are done with them, they will all be slaughtered. I guarantee you that. If this came to fruition, none of the elite would survive. They're used and thrown away. So this is known in galactic history. This is not going to happen. Much has been suspended that would have destroyed this world. During the Cold War, there were actually 12 separate incidences where these knuckleheads on both sides, under alien influence, pushed the button to annihilate this planet in nuclear war. And each time that happened, 3 ships would appear over the launch facilities here in the Soviet Union and shut down their launch computers. No talk, no explanation, no apology, no interference past that, and they would fly away. And as they got into the distance, they would turn the launch computers back on with the launch mode shut down. Now, if you have nuclear weapons and you want to control people with a fear of nuclear war, you put out that could happen at any moment when they know they're not going to be allowed to do it anyway. So their whole direction of a classified secret space program, a classified system of deception for the people, has no future in space. That whole system has no future because space is already occupied.
Let me jump in real quick, if I can, because I do remember reading multiple articles where they basically stated some type of UFOs flew over these nuclear silos, and then they were shut down. What they leave out, of course, is what you just said. These guys were pushing the button for nuclear annihilation. But I think that I actually read about that happening in Britain and obviously Soviet Union, which is now Russia, and America as well. So there's probably been multiple factions and militaries that have tried to do this. And the cover story is, well, it's just a glitch or whatever. But maybe that is why what you just brought up. Very interesting.
Well, the nuclear weapons in U.S. bases in Britain is the reason that happened in Britain.
Let me jump in again, because what about Fukushima and Chernobyl?
I wanted to talk about that because Chernobyl, as you know, was a nuclear power plant that imploded. It basically melted down from the roof down. It didn't explode. That killed, I think, 25 million people. You won't get that on CNN. And there's 2 cities there that are quarantined. You can't even go near them. They're so radioactive. Many people died down through the years through radiation poisoning and mutations and all kinds of things, childbirth, that kind of thing from that. Fukushima was 100 times worse. 4 plants blew the tops right off. The rods 15 feet tall were thrown into the air. That was orchestrated with a nuclear device, atomic, not in the air, but on the bottom of the ocean. It was designed by a hidden, misdirected elite to annihilate the people of Japan, China, part of Russia, Western United States, and start a process of eliminating 3/4 of the population. This is not normal human thinking, to think this way. Okay, even though that occurred, the people in Japan are not dead. Some died of radiation, but very few. And they are taking microbial life stuff that was developed by a Japanese scientist that actually eats radioactivity and turns radioactive harmful elements in the body to harmless barium. I'm taking some of that stuff myself. So this is really interesting stuff. Found out about it in Finland. Now, the water that is on this planet, 70%, and the water in our bodies, is programmable. H2O is not just liquid, solid, ice, and a vapor. There's a 4th phase of water. A 4th phase of water that's like a gel between the solid and the liquid, and it has 5-dimensional levels. It has its own charge it gets from the infrared, and like a battery, and it's programmable like a computer. This is new science for this planet. Professor Gerald Pollack from Washington University was in Finland. He's the head scientist investigating, discovering this stuff. So it was a lot of fun to go there. Now, Fukushima, what it was intended to do has been neutralized. Most of the radiation was simply wiped off the face of the earth. And I'll tell you how. Ted Marr, a radio show host, friend of mine, I'm going to his conference on Thursday, second year in a row, Galactic Wisdom 2. And he was over in Finland as well. And he's quite a fan of investigating, Fukushima, because he has a lady friend Michiko Hayashi of the Emoto Peace Project, which deals with the programmable nature of water, prayers into water, how it heals people. And so he's got a big fan of this whole area. Fukushima should have killed off a lot of us in the United States. It was that bad. 4 plants blowing their tops. It's that dangerous, this energy. It's so stupid. They use this at 10 times the cost of natural gas. To do what? To boil water, to make steam, to drive turbines, to make electricity. How insane is that? Monetizing nuclear spent fuel, which they developed in Alamogordo to make atomic bombs. It wasn't for electricity. And they just monetized it. They just wanted to get the spent fuel rods to develop nuclear-grade bomb material. And that's how dumb this is. So, nuclear energy on this planet is going to come to an end. There's no good use for it whatsoever. It gets out of a lead container, kills everybody in a block within 3 days. How stupid is that? To boil water? So anyway, Ted had done some testing of the waters off Washington. There was a time after Fukushima when a big plume of really highly radioactive water was heading towards California, Northern California, and Washington, Oregon. It measured 60 rads in climbing. And he sent it to a test lab. Governor Brown, actually, at the time, offered to test water like he was very concerned in California. And he sent it back east to 2 test labs, and it proved that there was high doses of dangerous radiation coming to shore. I talked with Ted about this and what was going to happen, and then he experienced it for himself. He tested the water a few weeks later, and all the radiation had vanished completely. That was help from friends from out of town. Galactic Alliance ships neutralized all of it, except a little bit, because they say, if we got rid of it all, you might build more of these nuclear plants and have another disaster, and we're going to have to come and clean it up again, like children playing in a sandbox, as Ted Moore puts it. And they're right. So they're doing a lot to neutralize what would have occurred here to wipe out this planet. Tyrant races only want one thing: resources. They don't care how they get them. There has been policing actions on and around the atmosphere of this planet in the last 65 years. Ships have been shot down, and our governments and others have recovered and what's inside. But they weren't shot down by our militaries. I hope I can get this point across. The tyrant race will use other races like Greys, Tall Whites, and some others to do their dirty work. And if they're lost in a shoot down, being caught doing something diabolical, so what? So people really can remember this stuff and begin to reach into this stuff themselves personally as they begin to work with the HUE, the special vibratory word that I share with people, that when they do it, the benevolent, spiritually masterful, highly evolved spiritual and technological beings out there hear this when you do it.
What do? You say the HUE?
Yeah, it's HU, the first 2 letters of, how obvious. It's so diabolical that something so incredible can be hidden in plain sight, like slapping people in the face with it. Human, the first 2 letters, human. That's the nature of true human beings. The ability to use a vibratory sound that connects to the primordial, omnipresent living force itself directly, the supreme being, prime creator, they call it on other worlds. It makes a direct connection. And this begins the process of reversing much that's been done to people through karmic lifetimes and everything else they've ever thought about. So when that crosses your path, your direction is set. It's going in a new direction. When you send out the HUE, even blind people, deaf people, once they learn how to do it, can do it in their imagination inside. It doesn't even have to be with the vocal cords. It's just more fun to do it. So when I do it and send out this word, you'll notice, unlike the Om, which was popularized from India over the years, Om, vibrates the throat and chest area. The HUE only vibrates the head upward, or the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and it opens a door. And it's a protected door. And people can only experience this for themselves to know the truth of it. I don't ask them to take my word for it, but the point would be of that. And it sounds like HUE.
I gotta throw something in really crazy here, and I normally would keep this to myself, but I think this is important. You're talking about the HUE right now, and I was first brought onto that about 5 years ago by somebody that I interviewed with another program, just helping them out at the time. And they said, all you got to do is say HUE. All you got to do is the HUE. And that kind of stuck with me, but they didn't really give a good reason as to why. And
don't know.
And so oftentimes I would think to myself, I would do that. I'd go, HUE. And I was the other day just thinking, man, I got to look this up and see what the meaning is to this, literally 2 or 3 days ago. And now here you are explaining this, not only to the audience here at the Leak Project, to myself, and the hair's standing up on my arms right now. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It works like that, Rex. It just really does. It comes across your path when, You're meant to start to awaken, recover, remember, recall much that was taken from you without your consent. I did not come to this planet under some divine decree to pick my parents and all that other nonsense, to reincarnate stupider than a rock lifetime after lifetime. Like God decided I should be dumber than a rock, be put on a planet, and then not remember anything because it's divine grace. That's horseshit, pardon my language. There's no such thing as a supreme source sending people to be unconscious on planets. Is there intermediaries out in space in practical sense between the forces of benevolent natures and those which are diabolical and malevolent? That malevolent nature is coming to an end out in our galaxy for the first time. Also, this is more important than anything I can share with people. If you don't understand the real nature of the hue and you do it, it's not going to be very effective. It will lead you to the point where you will cross paths with someone who can share that with you. But once you have the knowledge of it, you will never forget it. Ever. So when you hue, it's opening a doorway you could call through the crown or upper chakra. And it plugs into a pure source of pure positive energy that is not part of the dual nature of the positive and negative streams that is in the lower worlds that's good and bad and destructive and blah, 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 and on and on and on. Paying off your karmic lives. You come back in one life to get your rewards for being a goody two-shoes, and the next time you come back to suffer for the diabolical things you've done. The way that system works, there isn't any practical way you can ever perfectly balance out the scales of both forces. It's a trap because you remember the yin and yang symbol with a teardrop circling around each other? Yeah. Circled in a circle, complete and whole in harmony. That's the way we're meant to create. The positive and the negative are used like two terms of a battery to create energy, to create and manifest form, physical matter. But it isn't meant to be in a consciousness of a person split opposite each other, fighting itself. That's the illusion that's created by tyrants to keep people justifying, satisfying themselves that it's okay that they're reincarnating life after life on this planet, and I mean over and over again, with no memory of what happened before. They think that's normal, God's will. No, it's not. Karma comes to an end, and all that is karma, when a person knows the truth, when they wake up about this, they become set free from those effects as a being. And then they can evolve further. So the first thing that people have to have happen for them here is to recall what was taken from them or suppressed in the subconscious. Normal human beings, in other words, do not have a subconscious mind at all. We're not supposed to have one, because frequencies can be used as carrier waves to affect what's in that subconscious that you don't know. And when you're implanted, you don't even feel it. The satellite system's been used that way to reinforce implants, to keep them stimulated, to keep people agitated, to keep people angry. Hollywood, everything, radio, TV. All the radio stations and TV and film station companies, NBC, ABC, CBS, were all bought up by the military-industrial complex and their backers after World War II. So there is no free press in this country or anywhere in the world, at least not yet. However,
except for right here at the Leak Project.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that you and I are talking and no one's shutting down the satellite, are they?
Right.
Why?
Because obviously they want it to get out.
Well, who's they?
Those that have their hands and their tentacles stuck in almost every type of materialistic backbone on the entire planet right now.
Mm-hmm. But they aren't the ones orchestrating this protection. If they could shut us down, they would. That's the point I'm trying to make to you.
So somebody's watching out for us.
Exactly. Right now as we're speaking, you have a protective field around you.
Let's say thank you.
That's all they ever asked for. Little thanks, little humble, little ask for their help, because they'll give it. They won't give it without asking, though. So the real crux of this matter is to get the vibration of people up enough to where the true free will surfaces long enough for them to ask. They don't have to have the implants gone or all the tyrants gone on Earth, but as individuals, once they get to that point, that process is irreversible. And that's really the grace of this whole thing. That's what I'm so excited about, because of the potential of what it means. Can you imagine what this planet would be like, liberated? The beings remembered who they were from other worlds, and we were invited to be a spacefaring member of a galactic alliance and be able to go on, your children could go on field trips to other worlds. No war, no disease. You're living 1,000 years, genomes turned back on, use 100% of your brain instead of 6 to 10%. If you shut down certain genomes, you get into a body on Earth, or you're put in one here, and you go to push the buttons in the brain, which is a multi-billion neuron center. It's not where your memory is stored, by the way. It's not where the mind is, and it's not where your emotions come from. The brain doesn't do that. You try to push on those little contacts and they don't work. They're turned off. That's a problem. You want to get out of your body and then you can't get out. That's a problem. Tyrants do this. That's the way they work. This isn't some supreme being somewhere that did this. So
I'd like to add something to that as well, because, I myself have read Revelation many times in the Holy Bible. Actually, I've read the Holy Bible a couple times also. If you go through some of the older books, they're difficult to read, like Numbers and Kings, and it gets pretty, but regardless, I read through it and managed to read the entire compilation of books and texts, etc. I think there's 66 books or something in the King James Version. I've also gone through the Nag Hammadi treaties and many other scriptures. But when you read the Old Testament versus the New Testament, okay, there's all these crazy differences, but then they find a way to weave it together. But then the Revelation book is so powerful to the subconscious, which, like you say, shouldn't be subconscious. We should have access to it at all times, because it can be influenced. And that's why I brought up Hollywood, and then you bring up the media. They've just mastered the MK Ultra programming, intertwine that with everything else, the frequencies from Wi-Fi, satellites, who knows what else they're doing, and the chemtrails, etc. But regardless, the technologies that are used in the subconscious, and I think I just got MK Ultra here. I lost my train of thought, man. This isn't good. I was about to go somewhere with that. It was really powerful.
That's not them. Trust me when I tell you.
I'm joking.
Right now, I wanted to make sure you. This will be your own experience anyway. I'm a fellow being on this planet like you. I'm not from here at all, but I'm a human being. And I want to tell you that you are not being influenced by any black ops negative frequency mind control right now. None.
Like I said, I was totally joking when I said that, just because I was getting real excited. I was talking about 5 things at once, and then where I was trying to go with that.
I'm sure that the audience knows that, because this is your experience, and you've got a protection now, and it'll become more and more apparent to you. So that's why I'm here, to share that, and just to get on a radio show and sell books. I could give a hoot about money on this planet, or power, or fame, or fortune. Somebody came up to me and offered me $1 billion, tax-free, and a house, 10 houses, and I said, just don't do this anymore. I would turn them down flat. I cannot be bought by baubles on earth. And this is important to know. When you have integrity as a being and you realize that money is an illusion, here's the other thing. Money is illegal on other worlds. They don't print it. They don't use it. It's illegal. Only tyrants use it to program people to control them. And money was imported to this planet. It was not created here. Neither were imperial bloodlines. The more people become aware of this fact, the more they'll remember this for themselves. I know, because I went through it. And I'm just like anybody else. If I can go through it, everyone else can too. Simple.
Right. Now, I do remember now, real quick, before I forget again, I was going on with the Revelation, and in Revelation, when you read it, it talks about the Antichrist, right? And the Antichrist, the false prophets come out, and they promise world peace. They say that they're going to get rid of all disease, all hunger, everybody's going to be happy, and there's going to be a one world government and unite. And everything that we're talking about right now in this interview, as far as the good qualities that were offered to Eisenhower back in the day by these beings, if somebody was raised Christian or had that belief system because of their parents or whatever, they're immediately going to go to that thought of, wow, this is the Antichrist. I read about this in Revelation. So whether it's true or not, whoever put those books together, that influence has really had such a powerful impact.
And have you seen that influence in Christianity change this world one iota in 2,000 years for the better? Because I haven't.
It's been a perpetual war system.
Well, yeah, but the structure in the Bible is good. The basic premise of love thy neighbor, all that's good. But you got to remember one thing. This is a hard thing for good Christians to hear. But the fact of the matter is, the Bible wasn't written until about 300 years after this person they called Jesus was killed by a Council of Mycenae, I think it's called. Group of men. And those were always under the control of tyrant kings at the time, who controlled printing presses and everything else. It's clear that much that could have been put in the Bible was not put there. So people being programmed to think that the whole truth and nothing but the truth is in that book are really implanted to believe this way, because religions were used by tyrant kings to control masses of people. Not the original founder, not the original guy. That's a difference. So when you read these things in Revelations, the prophesied destiny, prophesied by Nostradamus, for instance, Bible prophecy, were all true. Armageddon, Horsemen of the Apocalypse, all this stuff would have happened here, would have already happened here. The point I'm trying to make for the benefit of those people is that it has not happened and it's not going to happen. Why? Because, and this is very important, the prophesied destiny of destruction of this world, which has happened many times in the past, has been permanently altered just a little over 5 years ago, out beyond this planet and in the higher realities. So who are we to tell God that it can't change its mind about Bible prophecy if it wants to? Are we so arrogant that we think we can tell it where to get off? The point is, people are so programmed they don't even think in the great gift of the imagination to visualize a transformed world for themselves. And they're going to be responsible for having destroyed this place if they insist on being saved by the destruction of this world. That is the programming of tyrants that aren't even from this planet. There's your Antichrist. Also, people that think any good that's coming out into the world that starts to change it is the Antichrist, is programming to keep them buried and trapped from ever being able to access it. Fortunately, that's going to be undone within them anyway. So they're going to remember things, and they'll be able to drop the truth from the false in all that they believe in, including about the Savior. They're going to be able to understand clearly what the truth is. And they've been so misled and hoodwinked about all this, they don't even know which way to turn. Ask a good Christian, do you remember how you got to this planet? Where did you come from before this life? They can't tell you. They think that's normal, God's will. No, it's not normal. They are divine beings. We are what off-world people call Atma, what people on earth call soul. It's not the physical body. God didn't make us the supreme being. We did not come into creation as mirror images of physical form. That is not what we are as a soul. We're spherical in shape and we're energy. That is the image we were made in, not the physical body. So when people get that straight and they realize that's what leaves the body at death, they're going to be a lot further ahead of the game. And it brings life to their own religion, real experiential vibrancy, but truth also. And I think that's very important because the hue is the original word talked about in the Bible, but not revealed in the Bible. Because it isn't there. It's not a written word. It's a vibration that humans can do to connect with the divine, and it comes with its own protection spiritually. Divine spirit, the sound and light, what beings from other worlds call the omnipresent living force, is not a negative and positive thing. It's beyond that. And so are we. We are meant to be conscious, trusted co-creators with that supreme prime creator, source. That is the true destiny of a human being. Not co-servants, co-creators. Somebody's got to run all those galaxies. Somebody's got to be able to develop to take over and have administrative functions in all of this and bring into creation new things. We come down to these lowest planes to return. We left with an empty sack. We're supposed to return with a bag full of gold, meaning new ways to solve the greater problems of the supreme being, meaning how to remove or retire evil as an experiment permanently by replacing it with something that actually works, that's divine. That's what this whole creation thing has been about all along. What I'm sharing with you here is that solution has been found, and evil as an experiment is on the road to being retired like the dinosaur. Not just on this planet, out there, amongst countless billions of world systems, on many dimensional levels. There's 144 parallel dimensions in just the physical universe alone, with planets and people and things on them. Spacefaring races know how to circumnavigate between these realities. So when I say there's 450 million plus worlds in this galactic alliance, it's not just in the physical universe you see with this Hubble telescope. It's in many parallels of it. And there's 144, but you even get to what's called the lower astral plane, the next major division or dimension upward. All the motion comes from the astral plane. Beings are multidimensional in nature. They have a life, they're living on the astral plane, the causal, the mental, up in the higher worlds, above the void of the Buddhists. And yes, there are many planes above that, pure positive in nature. And we as beings can circumnavigate this. In other words, you have a life you're living on these different planes. All emotion you get from the physical life here comes from the next plane up, the astral plane, where emotion is used to move matter, not effort. In the mental plane, 4 planes up, above the causal, this is where your mind comes from, thought. And in that plane, thought is used to move matter. And there's an etheric level, the subconscious domain. And then there's a great void. And on the other side of that void are a whole higher heavens of worlds. Most of the extraterrestrial races know about this stuff. Why do people on Earth not remember any of it? Well, we've been talking about that. Fortunately, all of that is reversible. That's the great message that I bring to people. When I do a presentation on radio like this or at a conference now, I'm standing there, I explain all this, and then I get people to go in 12 successive higher tone levels of the hue to open certain doors, provide certain agreements, get people asking of free will to get this divine help they need, and to get this stuff reversed. And then they begin to go through that process. When I first did a presentation in Norway in 2014 in October, I have friends from all over the world now and some of them, one of them, Emma Louise, was a contactee from the Andromeda Galaxy all her life. And she met me in a hotel room there with Ted Marr, radio show host, and a friend of hers. They know they're not from even this galaxy. So I encouraged her to write her book and come out and speak about this. Her first talk as a speaker was at this Finland conference. So those videos, I'm in the process. I have the responsibility of editing 40 hours of footage. I just finished the edit for the panel of 5 people that opened that first public day. It's beautiful. The music that goes with it, everything. And then I just finished my presentation and Dr. Irvin Laszlo's presentation, world-renowned scientist, lives in Italy. Talks about the quantum physics aspect of and connectivity we all have to the whole grand universe. This is science beyond what is considered normal science. So this all goes back to right now to this radio show, really, bring it up to present time. So the hue, what is it? It's the first original word sound vibration that brought all the multidimensional universe into creation. And we, you, me, and everyone else that's a soul, we're part of that. Soul has no beginning or ending, which means it exists and came into existence beyond time and space. Our native home is not in the lower worlds. So, yet we're meant to be able to work in the lower worlds and play through bodies and have awareness and be benevolent beings who are motivated by the fiery passion to only create and invent those things which will be of great benevolent benefit to all life, not just life on our one planet, all life. This is our true nature as human beings. The hue, without question, helps wake that up. If we do the hue, you would like to do it with me?
Yeah. You want me to say it at the same time?
Yeah, and in your own tone, whatever you're comfortable, just to get the vibration up, to get some warm feeling of love in your heart area and push the aura out a little bit and get a little space and freedom in there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it like, if you want, we could start on a low tone and take it up 12 pitches. It'll really raise the vibration. This is what I do at conferences. You want to do that, or would you just like to do a few?
Well, how many are we going to do then?
12. There's a reason.
Okay.
We could also do 5 if you think it's better for the radio show. 5's also a good number for doing that.
Yeah, let's do 5. So we'll say it 5 times, start at a low frequency, and then...
Raise it up a pitch, join me, and we'll go up to the top. Then we'll take a breath between each one, pause, and just look and listen. And we'll get to the 5th one, and then we'll just pause for a few moments, and then we'll come back and talk.
Let's go. Yeah, sounds good.
First, imagine someone or something you love and have gratitude for. It can be a person, place, or thing. This is critical, very important. It can be anything. Jesus, the Bible, divine spirit. It could be Bhagavad Gita, Buddha, who cares? Your wife, your kids, your dog, your pet, doesn't matter. Just put love there. And then send this out with me. Say it with me. Safely show me. Say it. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. So say hue right now.
No, do this. Send this out telepathically right now in the hue. This is what I'm saying for people to do.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Do hue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one hue, and then I want to have you say something with me because the words are constructed in a way you'll understand immediately. Let's do one hue, and then I will say this. Hue.
Hue. Hue. Hue.
And if you hue a little longer and let it go out, it makes a connection.
Okay.
Now here's what you send into it. This is you, your own divine, autonomous, original, unique being. Sending this out to the core source of all life and all the beings that are aware of it in between it and here. They hear it. They're telepathic. Time and space is not a factor. Send this out. Say it with me if you would. Safely show me. You say it with me?
Yeah.
Safely show me.
Safely show me.
Deliberately hidden truth.
Deliberately hidden truth.
On a grand, multi-dimensional scale.
On a grand, multi-dimensional scale.
And the much greater knowing.
And the much greater knowing.
of the expansive love within it.
Of the expansive love within it.
That's it. Now we'll do our 5 U's, and we'll start low and go up. You ready?
Yep.
You. 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 Oftentimes when a person does this, say for 15 minutes a day at night before they go to sleep, they'll hear a sound like white noise or a crashing ocean or other things they'll hear. This is the sound of divine spirit, and it has a light that is visual and as concrete as light you're seeing when you look at the sun, only you're seeing it with the inner eye, the third eye, the perceptive mechanism of the Atma, soul. And the vibration will open the heart area, and then it works with the head upwards. So it really just works with the soul itself. This is normal for people, many people from other worlds. And it's time for people on Earth to begin to remember their place in all of this. This is why I wrote the Seres Agenda. And the first, which was published as the 4th final edition, with these special techniques in the back, designed for the prologue and all 29 chapters. They work in this way. When you work with this hue, and you get the protection, safety to evolve and awaken despite all that's outside of you on this earth, you begin to recall much. And as this unfolds, you will have an experience of a dream at night, or being on a ship, or meeting Jesus, for instance. Really meeting the guy. His name was not Jesus in that lifetime, by the way. I think it was Yeshua or Ben David. So, but the point is, if people want to really have experiences that are real for them spiritually, this is the way to go through it, through the original word, the first vibration. So when they have an experience that's similar to one of the chapters they read in the book, they go to that chapter, apply the technique to that chapter for a few days or a week or whatever, until they get complete answers to what's puzzling them about the experience they had, and then they'll recover that memory. That's how that works. So it was important. I didn't know when I published the book I was going to have to go through 4 editions in 2 years, but I did. And so the final 4th edition was published in August of 2015. It's available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, those things, or through my website. And the first book of the Parallel Time.
What is your website, Scott? Just so our listeners can...
Just paralleltime.com.
Cool.
Paralleltime, just the 2 words, how they're spelled, put together, no spaces. And on the front page, you'll see both conferences, the one I just came from, links to the website page, and one to Ted's conference, Galactic Wisdom 2 conference, taking place starting Friday actually, through the weekend, up near Olympia in Washington State. I'll be leaving for that on Thursday. But if they look at the link on the front top center of the page, it goes right to a page that shows both books front and back, very large, very clear, and links are all around it to go directly to the proper official retail sales page for those books, for ebooks in various forms of the trade paperback. You don't have to hunt for them. You don't have to get to Amazon and search the Seres Agenda and then get hoodwinked by some third-party resellers that are allowed to sell there. Because if people buy these books from a third-party reseller because it's offered cheaper, they're likely going to get an earlier edition of the Seres Agenda and be disappointed because it won't have the techniques in it. Only the official retail salespeople, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, have those books. So you don't really want to be getting these from a secondary seller, because these companies make money by allowing other secondary booksellers to sell there as well. So make sure you click the links, go through the right sales thing at these sites, or go through my website, because those links there, if you click on them, an iBook, their kind of reader, or Amazon, print on demand, ship you out a book, or Barnes & Noble will get it from Ingram, the distributor of the Seres Agenda for the publishing company. Then they're going to go right to that sales page for that online retailer without having to look for it. Just clicking on it, it goes right to the exact right spot, and they don't have to hunt for anything. So I think that will be very helpful for them to get the book. I don't sell anything at my website. There's no shopping cart. The links go right to these retailers to sell them. They handle that, not me. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at your website right now, paralleltime.com, and I like the picture of you on the right here, stranger on a lost island, where you've got the background of what looks like some outerly world atmosphere. And you're like, hey, man, come on in, let's go.
Yeah, you click that, it goes to a page where you can play long snips of all the songs on that album. I'm also a composer and a singer. So that Stranger on a Lost Island, as you can imagine, is about Earth.
Yeah, very cool.
And when you hear the song called Lemriel on there, I think it could trigger a few things for you.
Now, yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things, too, I don't know if we really touched on much. We did talk about the Seireii a little bit, but not really into detail.
Yeah. We should talk about them because this is primarily what I discuss at conferences on the radio shows. But it's good because the Seireis are human like us. They're 19 to 25 feet tall. They were originally responsible for bringing into creation human beings like us. Little grays, tall whites, reptilians, other races, reptoid, insectoid, avian, all kinds of things that are benevolent, all benevolent at one time. Several billion years ago, this race helped bring them into creation and then helped raise them up to spacefaring capability. And then they vanished, just to leave everybody on their own. So, and as you can see, everybody left on their own has created tyrants and war and death. It's back and forth, the karma, on and on. It never ends, you know. You get good guys and predominant on the earth, and then you get bad guys, and there's a history that goes back 50 million years, way before Lemuria and Atlantis. In the Emerald Doorway, the first book of the Parallel Time trilogy that was published December 5th, 2015, there are over 30 illustrations in there. That book is more about my direct exploration of the hidden history of Earth and our solar system along the past time track, starting over 100,000 years ago before the last polar shift wiped everything out. And it does involve benevolent and malevolent extraterrestrials. It starts in present time on Earth, and it ends in present time. So then there's two other books which are written, should be published a year apart. So that is out there and accessible. When we talk about the Seireis are considerably more evolved than what you would call a Pleiadian, human or other races in the Galactic Alliance. They immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. These are not beings that are known in the UFO circles on this planet. There's a couple beings coming out and talking about their involvement in a 20-year secret space program. I'm sure you're aware of them. They've been ordered to talk about that aspect of what they experienced, and they know there's a great deal more they were never exposed to in that classified system. So you have to take things with a grain of salt and listen to the good, and also realize these guys are still classified. So it's all good, a little bit of disclosure here and there. When we talk about the Seireis, they are, for instance, I first met Ambassador Terrellian, that's his name, of the Seireis. When I began to write this book about what happened in my childhood and how I got into this direction, it became the Seireis agenda. And during that time, I was introduced to Terrellian. That was quite a shock, but a really uplifting one.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, Terrellian, there's a woman in Croatia, I think that's where she's from, and I apologize if I got that wrong to her. I don't want her to be offended, but I think that's right. Might be Yugoslavia, Croatia, I'm quite sure. Anyway, she contacted me. She saw the YouTube video of the presentations I conducted in Norway, and she wanted to get through the use. She had some contact with Terrellian, and she's an artist, and she wanted to depict him. She asked me if she could do that. I said, sure. So I worked with her for a couple of months and corrected some things, and eventually she got him right. So I actually have a picture of what Terrellian looks like. He's got long blonde hair, big blue eyes, but they're bigger than normal human eyes. In fact, most human beings in other worlds, Pleiadian and otherwise, have eyes that are a little bit larger than people on Earth. But otherwise, you could mate with them. I mean, they're human beings. Only they live at least 1,000 years, up to 20,000 if need be. The Seireis can produce a form you can talk with and shake hands with anytime they want. But in reality, they've immortalized their physical bodies long ago. So they're very, very advanced. They can get around the universe without ships. They are the mentors of, you might say now, the Galactic Alliance, which is near the core of the galaxy. It has 5,000 members representing 450 million world systems that sit in a Colosseum-type internal dome that sits all of them around a central stage down below, like Greek theater kind of thing. And the Sayres ambassador first appeared to them a little over 5-6 years ago Earth time to present them with the Sayres agenda and what is changed in the Sayres that brought them up in awareness to begin to take responsibility back for helping the younger races not destroy themselves. This is where this started. And so I've been in touch with him ever since. I introduced him to Ted Marr, a radio show host friend of mine who's a psychic all his life. And he's been in touch with Terrellian also since then. Some other people are beginning to have some contacts with him. This is not anything to do with negative predictions, biblical or otherwise, on planet Earth. These beings are quite beyond all of that. So when we talk about the Sayres, their motivation, their core motivation for doing what they're doing now, and they will present themselves on Earth again after this world's transformed. The first beings to present themselves here in massive numbers will be the Galactic Alliance members themselves. When some of the superficial implants are gone from hidden leaders and otherwise, then you'll see a real disclosure announcement from this world. And then things are going to ramp up in just incredible ways. The transformation of cities, cars into useful products, oil into something else, this transmutational quality, molecular recombination capabilities is something these races have been able to do for a very, very long time in galactic history. So it isn't a problem and never has been a problem transforming this world or ending disease. That's a piece of cake for them. It's getting everybody up to a level where the free will of the beings here is involved in asking for that help. That's all this is about now. It's a done deal. And what is underway now cannot be reversed, fortunately. As I said before, the classified systems-based programs, which are diabolically being manipulated by an off-world tyrant race, is coming to an end. Not just for us on Earth, but for them on their tyrant homeworld systems too. If you can't solve the problem out there in space, it'll just come back here to this planet. So it's a much bigger undertaking than just dealing with Earth. But fortunately, Earth is in the middle of all this. And that's a very good thing for all of us. So if a person wants to meet with Terrellian or benevolent races from other worlds, they have to deserve the respect we give each other on this planet. Just because they're from another world doesn't mean they're evil or Antichrist or any of this nonsense. Because that kind of thing would have happened here. But as I said before, the prophesied destiny of this planet has been changed permanently to a benevolent direction. And I found this out from my travels into the higher worlds directly. And through meeting the Sayres, the Galactic Alliance members, remembering many lives and other things that were suppressed in me for so long. And a great deal was awoken, and I still have more to go like everybody else. We're all in this boat, this spaceship Earth together. And we're all in it to co-create it together in an entirely new direction. People have been made to manipulated to use this great gift of the creative imagination. And imagination, by the way, does not take place in the brain. When you close your eyes and look at a beautiful woman, or a waterfall, or a hummingbird, or another planet, you're actually seeing it from the spiritual eye somewhere in creation. Star Wars, 5 million years ago in another galaxy, great wars did take place. Writers often unconsciously write about what they're seeing. They think they're making it up in their brain. They are not. Things get confused because of the implants, so when people come back with a dream at night that's on another world and it gets muddled with a bunch of Earth crap, that's the implants. That stuff clears up after a time, and then much more clear memory comes through when you come back to the body in the morning. The hue is instrumental in helping people do this. I know because it does for me and has done. It is continuing to do that. So I want to make sure people get that. It's very valuable. It's free. It'll never be charged money for it. Never. So there's just no money involved.
You're just trying to sell books by telling us about the hue. That's
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's funny how some of the comments you read in these. It's just retarded. I tell you, I get.
No, I don't. I'm not. I'm not even motivated by money and fame and fortune at all. My motivation comes from way off world.
Right.
And make that clear to people. My passion, my fiery reason for being on this planet is not about accumulating a bunch of illusionary money that's worthless, or being famous or any of that. I can take on the responsibility of notoriety, but it's done for the benefit of those I speak with. Period. I don't do it for any other reason. I don't go clear to Finland halfway around the world to sell books. In fact, I didn't even take any books there to sell, which surprised people.
Man, and even if you did, you'd have to sell a lot of them just to pay for your airline tickets. I mean, that's a
Yes, you don't
that's what
sell,
the internet's for.
you don't sell many books at these conferences. It's to make direct contact with people, because then they start to wake up and go out, and it just spreads out like the 100 monkey theory.
Oh yeah.
You know about that story?
Oh yeah, the 100th monkey washing his fruit down there at the lake.
Yeah, and then all the monkeys on islands they had no contact with started doing the same thing. It's kind of like that with awakening. So, yeah, no, I don't get on these radio shows to sell books. It's great when they do. They're not that expensive, but it's really for the benefit of people who get the books, because these books are a special kind of design channel. And they are there for the benefit of the people who read them, period. The little bit they spend, 15 or 14 bucks on one of these things, if they had any idea what kind of years, decades, and money I've spent to get these out there, they would not be so quick to make such blatant statements.
Well, what's funny is it's like that one comment out of 100, you'll see 99 of them that are really good, and there's that one person that's still living in grandma's basement and has those peanut butter and jellies already ready for him that grandma makes and breakfast, so he doesn't have to spend any money to survive. So he decides to go online and write a comment like that, and it's money, unfortunately, folks, is something that people do need to survive if they don't have somebody paying for everything. So making money, I don't think is a bad thing at all, depending on where you go with that. And it's not like you do this to get rich.
Yeah, you said it exactly. It's what you do with that energy. Money's just energy in the form of an illusion called printed paper, which is just paper with ink on it. There's no gold backing it in the United States. It's just digits in a computer. It's not real. And as I said, it's illegal outside of this planet. Only tyrant world systems use money, and they brought it here for that purpose, to control things. Without it, they can't really control people. If people don't live, or if they grow up not being motivated to create things, to get rich over their other fellows, or accumulate bullion in a bank, if their motivation, which is normal, is to create that which is a benefit to all other races and beings in the universe, these people are highly evolved, blissfully happy, entirely serene, highly enlightened, and that's just normal. I would say that a normal human being on a Palladian homeworld, at least on the benevolent ones, would appear to be a master, spiritual master to people on Earth. And that's sad in a way, because people have been so dumbed down without their consent that they can no longer recognize truth from falseness. The internet's full of both, intentionally. So when you get on the internet and most radio shows, you're going to have a mix, because of advertiser promotion, syndication. You're going to have a mix of people telling the truth and people coming out with spooks and goblins and Bigfoot, and then scientists getting on and saying, we think there's life on another planet. And the effect of that on people over time is that they still walk away with doubt and skepticism about everything after 20 years of listening to these things. And they know a lot more, but they're still plagued by not knowing. The hue, without question, helps wake up their knowing faculty more than anything else. What's important is that people have their own direct experience with it. They can do it in the name of Jesus. They can pray to Jesus. They can ask him for protection to use the hue. But really all they're doing is using the original word of God, the real thing. So what bad can come from that? None. In fact, no negative element can penetrate it when you're doing it. None whatsoever. Not scalar waves, not satellites, not reptilians, grays, whites. This is something that's so profound when I say it to people, they just can't wrap their head around it. But it's true. Or we would not be having this conversation. They would shut it down if they could. That's the point I'm making. They are not able to. Somebody wrests control of those satellites away from them. And they can't do anything about it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Scott. I was just going to ask you a question, because you brought up the Anunnaki earlier and said that they weren't, they're more like a reptilian type species.
Right.
Planet X, or Nibiru, is also talked about a lot. And there's a big wave right now of people out there looking for some type of second planet, multiple moons, of possible new star system or a new constellation of stars that we're entering. There's just so much out there right now. And I've seen some great photos, and I am pretty neutral on the subject, yet after doing a lot of research over the past 6 months, I'm starting to really wonder, hey, maybe there's something more to this. But let me put into reasoning why I feel this is so important. Because right now, if you look at, just go outside, don't even look at the sun, because it'll burn your head off. But if you can kind of just, it's so much different now. Look at a picture of the sun versus 20 years ago, if you can even find them anymore. I mean, it's so much more bright, white, extreme, and it wasn't like that back in the 80s and 90s. So what in the heck is going on? I mean, there's so many chemtrails going on. My theory is maybe they're terraforming the planet for some reason, or they're trying to stop some damage that's already been done. But you can definitely tell the sun is much more extreme now. So is there another sun out there that we're getting close to, or what's going on?
Yeah, the sun is, and I'm glad you said that, because very few people are really conscious enough to go out there and realize in the last number of years the sun has become much more intense, much brighter, much hotter. The chemtrails, this is something that people need to understand. If they want to, they will know it for themselves. Chemtrails are not being put up there to wipe out humanity. little common sense goes a long way here, folks. I mean, come on. They have in their technology, hidden government on this planet, our own government, the U.S. If they wanted to send one sortie of aircraft around the world with an odorless, colorless gas, they could kill all human beings in an hour worldwide. Why spend trillions of dollars, and yes, I mean trillions, putting chemtrails up there, which are above the commercial airline traffics? They're at a higher altitude. They float out and spread out like clouds. You've seen them do it. And they just sit up there. They look like clouds, but they're weird-looking clouds. And they stay up there. They don't come to the ground. This is in part, Obama had a meeting with, this is just the good side of their misdirected nature, let's put it that way. The UN and all the scientists in the world and the governments, including Putin, agreed global warming is not only real, but it will destroy life on this planet by 2025 if they don't do something about it. So they all agreed to put funding together into shielding. Partially the reason they're doing it is to shield from the increase in, I would say, spiritual current coming through the sun to this planet. Now, if that hits implants, it's going to cause a lot of turmoil and problems for people. But if the implants weren't there, this is the point I'm making, people would simply absorb and raise up in consciousness with that. The problem is the implants, not what's being done. So there is a shielding that's going on. It's not all bad. I'm not saying the chemicals they're using to make chemtrails is good for people. I wouldn't say that. But if it was meant to kill us, they could have done that. They didn't have to spend 20 years doing it. So I think people need to put that into perspective and stop operating from so much fear of the future. Tyrants get people to think and imagine their own future destiny as Armageddon, as destructive. They want people angry at a hidden person, government they can't see and don't know who they are. That makes them controllable. The frequencies they use that people, when they add their imagination into the negative stream, it links up with them to keep their implants in full swing. If you stop using your imagination in a negative way towards the future, despite what's going on around this planet, which is being manipulated for you to see certain events, if you start seeing your family and yourself and your future of this planet as a transformed, benevolent, spiritual planet and technologically advanced, you're using your imagination in the correct and only right way it's meant to be used, whole and complete. These people will imagine a negative, destructive future for the planet, and at the same time love their own kids and take them to church. It's a contradiction in terms. It doesn't make any sense. You can't live both ways. It's like a cracked bell. It splits the consciousness in half. If a person becomes really a real Christian or real divine, loves all life, they learn to love all life beyond Earth, not just on this planet. We're just one planet out of trillions with life on it. Souls, beings, human, and others. It's time for people on Earth to grow up out of that infancy, sandbox mentality spiritually and embrace a bigger God, embrace a bigger divinity they claim to know about. And this is what this is all about, getting planet Earth and its people to grow up, get out of the traps they've been put in, to end the karma, and bring Earth into an entire new destiny. And then people will go in entirely new ways of unfolding. And it's got to start somewhere. And, I came to this planet 66 years ago to bring this about then. And I was intercepted. And I was put in this body against my will. This is not the body I came here in. It took me many years, decades, to uncover what was done to me and begin to wake up who and what I am. So that mission that was set back 66 years is now underway. And it cannot be reversed at this point. So even though it's delayed, it's still going to take place. Something else had to come in creation about 5 years ago, as I mentioned earlier, to make it possible to neutralize what we call evil as an experiment in a benevolent way without war. This is a big change out in the galaxy. It's a big change out in creation. It's a big change, period, for what we call the Supreme Being or Prime Creator or the Source. Huge, huge, first time ever type of change. And we are on this planet, and I'm dedicated to being here. I could have left years ago. I'm here to stick it out for the long haul with everyone else to transform this planet. That's the only reason I am here. And I'm very dedicated to it, along with billions of other beings that are as well, that people on Earth don't even know exist yet. So we're in really good shape that way. I have a very bright view of the destiny and the future destiny of this planet, but only because of what I now know, not because of what's perpetrated out there for people to see that's misleading. Fukushima did not do what the diabolical beings tried to get it to do. That was neutralized for the most part. Nuclear war has been neutralized for the most part. Do you ever notice there's never been a nuclear bomb set off above ground by even North Korea or Pakistan? Atomic bombs underground, yes. Above ground, no. Because they aren't allowed to do it. Pretty clear. We're not going to have a nuclear war here, ever. That's already a done deal. Now it's time for everybody else to begin to wake up to what else is going on that will benefit their lives in such ways that they can't even imagine it right now. I think that about encapsulates it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I just wanted to remark on that. Oftentimes, the darkest hour is just before dawn. So keep that in mind, folks. And I really appreciate you coming on the show here with us, Scott. You've just given us a bounty of gourmet information. You know, it's all positive and no fear-mongering or anything. So this has been great. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here. I'm really glad we got to meet up. I hope I'll get on your show again and give you some updates.
Oh, yeah. Please do.
There'll be YouTube videos out from this Finland conference. It is not just another conference. It was very, very unique. It brought together people from around the world and originally was conceived to be a private meeting only. And then Yanni, who sponsored it, wanted to open it up to the public. I encouraged it, supported it, helped it happen. What happened there and what I'm editing, this is just, you're going to see this stuff. It's going to just really open some things up for you when you watch these presenters and what they're talking about. You'll see my presentation and what I do with a group in 12 tones that we didn't do here. It's right there on the video. I just finished that edit for that. The panel, the opening panel for the public, which was the third day of the 4-day conference, was the first thing I edited with beautiful orchestrated music. And then the 5-panel people talking, I'm kind of emceeing that. And then we'll go on to all the presenters for the 2 days and get them all up independently on YouTube. And they'll be out there for free.
Now, obviously, you've got a ton of stuff on paralleltime.com. That is your main website. But could you give our listeners your YouTube channel real quick so when that stuff's up, they could take a look at it?
Oh, yeah. Just all they have to do is go to YouTube and type in the Seres Agenda, S-E-R-E-S.
Awesome.
That's it. And it'll come right up. It's populated around the world. And they can watch the Norway conference. I will soon have the ones up on YouTube for the Finland conference.
Okay.
And I'll have them up after I'm done editing Ted's conference this next week. When I get back from Washington, I'll have those up there too.
Okay. Fantastic. Appreciate you coming on the show with us. Also, I'd like to recommend our listeners go to youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get access to all the latest podcasts first and free. They're updated every single day. Also, leakproject.com. We have a ton of information on there, over 200 full-featured podcasts. And make sure to give us any links or anything for your personal page on the website, Scott, because you will have that. And guys, just remember, be the change you want to see, and all you have to do is hew
from the heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have guest R. Scott Lemriel. After over 30 years of extensive experimental research and direct contacts with benevolent beings from off-world, Mr. Scott Lemriel put forth the Ceres Agenda. His first published Hidden Truth revealing book, it was written after the 3-book manuscripts that comprise the Parallel Time trilogy. Hidden Truth revealing adventure were completed. The final 4th edition of the Ceres Agenda, published in August 2105. Now that's interesting because that's about 100 years from now. So we're going to talk about this. Now, this contains special techniques added to the back for the experimental benefit of all readers. It is designed to make available special protected ways for them to begin to safely have their own direct, uniquely transforming and uplifting experiences regarding the hidden truth revealed in the chapters. Scott also directed over 50 TV shows with the theme Exploring Your Spiritual Life that aired in the Seattle, Washington State and the Vancouver, Canada areas every Friday night at 7 or 7:30 p.m. for 2 years. Now, Scott, it's great to have you on the show with us. How the heck are you?
Doing great, Rex.
Wonderful. You know, we've been talking a little bit back and forth before the show and also via emails, and just really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you. Getting to know just a little bit about you before we started here. I'm just really excited to hear what you have to say. And if you would please let our audience know a little bit about yourself and why you decided to get into the path of writing about cosmic experiences and intergalactic travels, etc.
It'll be my pleasure. Yeah, I just got back from a very special conference in Finland. It's the second time that I've been invited to Scandinavian countries to conduct a presentation for Europe and for the public there. I was flown over there, of course, in October of 2014 to a Norway conference. And there is a free YouTube video, 2 hours, that if you just look up SERES, the Say Raise Agenda on YouTube, it comes right up. And people can watch that for free and see how I did my presentation there. I'm in the middle of editing a number of videos now from the Finland conference, which took place this month, just a week ago. And those are extraordinary. That event, which gets into a little bit of my background too, that event was unique because the first 2 days of it were a private meeting amongst what the sponsor calls shamans. Shamans, a Siberian term meaning those who know, not just somebody who heals with their hands or tribal shamans or anything like that. And so there were scientists there, world-renowned top scientists that work beyond the normal areas of science. And myself as a presenter, a radio show host, Ted Marr, was there. Mitch Kohayashi of the Emoto Peace Project was there, which deals with the programmable nature of water, which the scientists have discovered, a fourth phase of water, and that it has its own charge and it's programmable in 5-dimensional levels. Very interesting stuff. So I went there basically to provide a certain protection for that conference site, the people coming to it, and when they left. So we had no interference whatsoever from any black ops teams, hidden military industrial complex, hidden government, negative extraterrestrials, or anything like this. It's something that people that go to these need to experience for themselves, and they do. So that, we'll put that aside. Those videos will be available soon. Now, to get into a little bit of background about me, where I started with this was when I was maybe 3.5 or 4 years old, walking up to the little brick house my parents had outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, in Bountiful area. And it was near dusk, and I was just a little toddler. And as I was walking towards the steps, my parents were engaged in a normal argument between, married couple. Not violent or anything, but to me, in the consciousness I was in, for some reason, I could see their energy fields around their body, and there was a barrier between them. It was sending out red darts and sparks of energy, which would be considered a mild argument between people. Now, what that did was I suddenly found myself projected out of my physical body, and I could see that I was comprised of a spherical form of energy. It had structure, and I knew who I was. I was an adult, mature male being, not from Earth. And I looked up and saw a sphere of energy. It had a transparent golden light around it, and inside this sphere were geometric formulas, mathematical equations, all kinds of things that I understood about intergalactic travel, how people live in other worlds. And I looked into it and could see the star patterns. So I recognized that where I was, and I said to myself, Earth? What am I doing on Earth? This all went through my consciousness. And so when I went back into that little body, this experience stayed with me. And it began to propel me in a direction of discovery and recovery, recall and remembering that has taken place throughout my life and into my later years and into my adult years and ongoing experiences with these things. Later, when I was living in Washington State in a little town called Cherry Crest up on a forested mountaintop near Bellevue, when it was mostly forest back then, I had an experience of coming home on a school bus one day, and I was the last one dropped off. This bus would go 1.5 miles or 2 miles up a long hill up to the top of this forested area and drop me off a little wooden bus shed. And then I'd watch it travel another 1.5 miles down the other side and disappear down below into Bellevue. And as I took a step, my head actually got pulled upward in a benevolent way. This was not an abduction experience. There was no fear and no negativity involved here. And I looked up and I could see, maybe they were at 25 or 30,000 feet, I suppose. They came down to maybe 15,000 feet. There were two groups of disc-shaped craft, 15 in each group, in two triangular formations. And I immediately found myself in a telepathic conversation with a male human aboard the lead craft. I just knew it. I knew that he was benevolent. I knew that he was human. I knew that he was not from Earth.
and that there was a reason for this. So there was a telepathic stream of information that went on for, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds. And then the two groups broke apart. And you remember how the ships danced around in Close Encounters?
Oh, yeah.
Spilbergs. Okay, these ships didn't look like that, but they did that kind of acrobatic maneuvering all over the sky and then regrouped. And then the two triangular groups just kind of tipped towards me and shot up into space. Very intriguing. Here I am, 11 years old. So I walked another half and 3/4 of a mile up the hill to the little house where we lived up in this housing development area. They had little narrow roads between all the homes there. I never spoke about this to my family, my brother, my sisters, my parents, ever. About a week later, this is funny, I decided to try to find out why it was that my father drank beer and what it was all about. Had no idea. So I stayed up about 3 a.m, snuck in the fridge, grabbed a can of this beer, climbed out the window, walked across the dew-laden grass up to this narrow roadway, and it was a beautiful night. There were just beautiful star-filled skies, no moon, and the wind it was balmy, it was summer, it was beautiful. And I popped a can of this beer, but I never drank it. The next moment, I found myself on my back spread eagle with this beer in my left hand, sitting there unspilled. And I was looking at a disc-shaped craft, pulsating from blue to white light, hovering just above 4 or 5 telephone pole lengths above the telephone pole, maybe 15 feet from me. And this same impression of a human male benevolent being aboard that ship began. And a stream of information went on for about 15 minutes. I knew what it was about. I couldn't comprehend it all in that young form. And then that stopped, and the craft just began to pulse from blue to white light, faster and faster till it became a blinding white light, and it shot straight up into space. So I got up, dumped the beer out, put it in the garbage, snuck back into the room, went to sleep, told no one. No one ever knew. So this is what compelled me to go forward through my teenage years, having some out-of-body experiences and some other things that gave me more information during a night when the rest of the world's asleep. And then one more experience I want to share, just the tip of the iceberg. When I was 21, I was traveling with a friend and his wife and their newborn baby around the western United States, kind of like a free-for-all spiritual mission, kind of a meditation thing. And we just wanted to explore and drive through Sedona and different places, and we went through Utah and all that kind of thing. We were driving late at night on this journey at about 3 a.m. in the morning on the salt flats headed towards Salt Lake City. And my friends liked to listen to country music on the radio, so they had it on a country music radio station, and we're happily listening to it. I'm in the back seat, and they're in the front with babies in the mother's lap. And suddenly the radio station started blurring through the dial like someone was turning the dial until it landed on a frequency where we could hear the commander of a local Air Force base ordering a couple of Black Hawk helicopter pilots to fly over the desert to try to investigate something they picked up on radar. And we heard this. And the next moment, I heard this voice, and this time he introduced himself, and he said, "I want to show you something. My name is Manka." So that's where I got the name of this particular pilot. And the next thing we knew, he asked us to pull over the side of the road, park, and just look out the window and wait. So we did. And I was telling my friends what was happening in this telepathic conversation. They experienced what happened with the radio, so they were very tuned into this. Next thing I knew, 2 Black Hawk helicopters flew over the top of our car. No lights, almost noiseless, out over the deserts, searchlights trying to find something. So this voice said, "Now I want you all to look out the windshield. I want you to see this." We said, "Okay." We looked out the windshield. An instant later, there was a blinding flash of cobalt blue light, and a sphere, looked spherical, but I know it was disc-shaped. The light around it made it look spherical, but it was cobalt blue, and it lit up the desert. And then that vehicle shot straight into the ground as if it was going to crash. And the helicopters were ordered to go over there, but we could still hear this commander yelling at them. And they went over there and couldn't find anything because there wasn't a crash. And then that experience ended. And after we recouped our energies, we just drove away. So these were the things that started me in a journey of recovery. And what I mean by recovery is remembering, recall. It took me many years to discover that all the people on earth have been implanted in a way, in an energetic way, that has made them forget who they were, where they came from before this lifetime, and all they once knew. And this is interesting because people do not know this has taken place. Fortunately, and the reason I do what I do now is because this is all reversible. Any kind of misuse of extraterrestrial technology is reversible. So what is in part taking place now is the process to undo all of that worldwide. So we're not going to have a destructive Armageddon future like people think. What's coming now, people will going to find is completely, entirely unexpected, but really good. So throughout my life, then I had direct contact experiences, money out of body experiences. It's just easier to get out of the body at night when the world's asleep and learn with these people and discover much about the true nature of galactic history and the true nature of the hidden history of Earth and our solar system, because, man, have people been hoodwinked. The implant that I'm talking about, technology, are not the little chips put under the skin. Those were developed by the military-industrial complex to try to reverse engineering what was another kind of implant technology that they were being affected by. Those implants are like holographic images of energy on a waveform that have terrorizing experiences of death and torture and maim and all the things you can think of, all artificial, that are put into the electromagnetic field around the body, like the aura, that affect the nervous system when they're turned on. But the clever part about it is that people don't see or hear it. They just feel it. So when a person tries to recover their highest faculty of direct knowing perception, which all human beings have in other worlds, then the terror kicks in and they're driven away from it. And that takes place for a while in their life till they get courageous enough and strong enough to get some control over this stuff that was done to them. Then they seek and find answers, and eventually they're going to come into connection with ways to have that all undone. So that's the primary basis for my work today, Rex.
Let's talk about these people that you've been making contact with, the series. Are those the ones?
It's actually pronounced Sey-Rays, as if it was spelled S-E-Y-R-E-H-S, or Sey-Rays.
Sey-Rays, okay. So instead of Sea-Ray, like the boat, we'll call them Sey-Rays. Yeah, I like that.
It's not series like the World Series, it's Sey-Rays.
Gotcha, okay.
That's clear in the book, too. People get that.
Absolutely. Now, you told me before the show that you had actually had contact even before the age of 11, correct? So your first experience, how old were you?
About three and a half.
Okay. And was that with these same Sey-Rays people, or was that with a different? That
was with the Sey-Rays.
Okay.
The other experiences were with the Galactic Alliance members, and those are benevolent spacefaring world races. More than 450 million highly evolved spacefaring races in just 1/4 of our Milky Way galaxy. That's how duped people on Earth have been. They should know all about these people. So we'll get into why they don't know and how it's been prevented from them knowing and what's being done about that. When I say 450 million, I mean, in English, the actual term for that organization, which is massive, is, if you rendered it in English, the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. It's not a federation that came from Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. That's okay. They don't mind what you call them, but that's much larger than that. There are also some races out there, much smaller in number, that are spacefaring totalitarian races. And this goes back, oh God, the last galactic war that happened in our galaxy happened over 500,000 years ago. It was very violent. Worlds were destroyed, not just the surface, blown apart. And the race that started that war, they were bipedal